Hi there. Welcome and thank you for joining a conversation. I am here with Paul Acker, who is a client of mine, and wanted to share a bit about his journey over the last several months. Been working with Paul for several months now, and it's been pretty great to witness all that he has experienced. And wanted to share that with my audience and his audience in case it's helpful for anybody who's here with us. So, Paul, I would love for you to share just a little bit about yourself to get us started. And as part of that, um, share a bit about your background and like what led you to doing this work and kind of focusing on yourself and your healing journey, spirituality, things like that.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Ted. Appreciate the invitation to have a conversation with you today. Well, my story really from the very beginning is from a farm in Southwest Arkansas. I grew up in a very small community there out in the country. And as simple as that seemed, that really was very formative for me. All the things that I learned, a lot of the things that I'm unlearning or better understanding now. And the journey really begins at very small age and all the things that surrounded me there. I've lived in many places across the United States. The longest I've lived anywhere is here in St. Louis, and I've been here since 1998 and love it here. My partner and I have a home in the Tower Grove area. We have two pups that keep us very busy, and just have had a really interesting life. It's become a lot more interesting in the last few months, and I'll tell you why. I've been working since 1974. I think I was a senior in high school when I got my first job. And so much of what I thought of as myself was my professional persona. So I kind of adopted many of the things that I learned about how to get people to like me and how to succeed and how to feel accepted and loved. All of these years in my corporate journey has kind of stemmed from all the things that I learned or accepted as the truth from that very small child on a farm in Southwest Arkansas. And so I did retire last October. Didn't really plan it particularly well. I knew it was coming and the time came for it to happen. And my body told me that it was a good thing, but my mind and heart did not feel aligned with the decision. Didn't have a lot of plans around what am I going to do after I retire. And that kind of, I'll call it an existential crisis. That's a little overly dramatic perhaps, but at the end of the day it's like I know who I was and why I built my life that way, but that's all gone, and that person does not seem to fit where I want to go. Even more so, where do I want to go, and what do I want to do, and how do I fit in? It's almost like learning all over again the person that I was. So
Yeah.
that happened in October of 2023, and I've been on this journey to answer those questions in this new phase of life, knowing that it's kind of like I've been on a spiritual journey of sorts at various levels all my life.
Hmm.
Um, but this was yet another example to say, we're not done with your learning. You've got a whole new round of evolution in your journey to jump on. I can't say that it was pleasant. Um, I, really felt kind of lost. And so that's when I knew that I wanted some help to really get my handle around. It's not just about getting another job or settling into retirement. It's about who am I? Why am I that way? Can I better understand myself and what's driving so much of my thoughts and beliefs and patterns and heartaches and pain? But more so, the world's changing very, very quickly. and I want to fit in with my purpose. And it's been a journey about understanding who I am and finding that purpose.
Yeah. And I know you've been, you even said like you've been on a spiritual journey for some time. And of course, we can argue that our entire human journey is spiritual, even if we don't realize it at the time, throughout the whole life. Um, but I wonder, like, are you able to pinpoint why the job transition was such a pivotal moment in kind of having a spiritual-esque journey before that, and it just really changing everything to where that became just more of your sole or primary focus in your life. What was it about that transition that really was different than what you'd experienced before that?
In looking at that transition in 3D, I had, Ted, every reason to feel accomplished and proud of what I had done, and built businesses, created cultures. Um, and if you look at it in the 3D, wow, what a success. Um, that's not what my soul and my heart felt. It's like it felt it had failed in some way, shape, or
Mm,
form. Now I know that seems very vague, but at the end of the day, I think this misalignment with what my brain was telling me, you've accomplished so much. You did a great job. Like many other people, I'm not saying I'm better or, this guru that did things, but I worked hard and was able to accomplish many of the goals that my companies had asked me to do. But my soul and heart felt like, but you haven't been yourself. There's
mm,
something false about all of this. And not understanding that doesn't make sense to me, kind of put me in the direction where something needs to be checked into. There's something
yeah.
deeper here that I need to understand. So I think that's the point when I realized that I wanted to look for a partner in guidance,
Mhm.
and really focus on doing that inner work of better understanding, because it did not, what I was feeling did not align in what people told me and what the 3D showed me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, and it was shortly, I think it was maybe a month later that you and I connected and we began working together and
Yeah. I think it was Novemberish.
yeah, and you we began conversations and I'd love to know we started a little slow and then we've been going kind of full force for the last 4 months or so, 4.5, 5 months. Um, I'd love to know, as much as you're open and willing and wanting to share, like over the last several months, what do you feel like has been some of your bigger shifts on the inside, like changes in perspective, changes in how you feel about yourself, um, and yeah, what would you like to share from that perspective?
Yeah, well, yes, I'd love to share it. I'll try to keep this succinct to the extent that I can, and be articulate as well. I would say the first thing that's coming to me that I'd like to share is just better understanding the person that I was and where I had shut down. And I think in understanding my emotions, emotions to me was something that I didn't understand the relationship between emotions, thoughts, and feelings.
Mm,
And so anything that made me feel insecure, and what I mean by that is it made me feel like I'm not taken care of. I don't have the love that I need. I don't have the money that I need. I don't have the security on the planet that I need. Anything that made me feel insecure that way kicked it into a game for me. I'll play the game, and if I'm a good person and make all these vows and promises, some that I share with others and some that were hidden in the recesses of my heart. But it was all about being enough through other people's eyes. And so I became a person that I think was kind and nice, but it wasn't very authentic. It was really for how can I keep myself safe?
Uh,
And I shut my emotions down, meaning it doesn't matter how you feel or what you're really, are you feeling angry? Are you feeling hurt or guilty or shame? It's all about shutting that out because I'm playing the game for what other people need me to be. And if I play that game well enough, I'll be liked and I'll be taken care of. And so to boil that down, I really had numbed my emotion. It wasn't important what I was feeling. The game was more important because I
yeah.
wanted to stay safe.
Mhm.
So realizing that, you know, knowing that you have emotions does not make you a failure. Knowing that you feel anger or fear or things doesn't mean you're a bad person. And I somewhat grew up believing that if I felt things that were considered lower vibrational, oh, he's mad, good people don't get mad, then just pretend you're not mad. You never have any emotions that you feel.
Yeah.
And I've learned to connect with those emotions in that I'm mad as heck right now. That's okay. Rather than blaming somebody else, ask myself, what is it that's triggering that emotion in you? And digging deeper and understanding myself from an authentic place. So that connecting with emotions and really feeling them and not judging them as good or bad, but learning how to learn from them
Yeah.
has been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and I continue to work on that because there's kind of like levels. You know, you feel like you have this great epiphany about something, and then another layer of it comes up, and so learning that that's okay too. You don't just eradicate anything in a moment's notice, and now you're done. You can check that off the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think, yeah, it's really wise what you're sharing about emotions and how none of them are inherently good or bad. And what I'll add on to that is like every emotion serves a purpose. And while a lot of them can feel negative or feel unpleasant in the moment, when we can accept them and embrace them, they actually, feelings give us information. Anger, for example, um, it points to what's not working for us, right?
right.
It gives us information about, oh, I don't like that.
Hmm.
And when we can feel and move through it, we'll also have the clarity of like, okay, so next time I'm going to approach this situation a little differently, or it can point to, maybe a deeper thing. So if someone says something that triggers us and angers us, what is that pointing to within ourselves that we can heal and work on as well?
Look, and you mentioned that, it's not inherently good or bad. I would say that one of my experiences that's kind of it's kind of silly if you think of the picture in your head, but I'll share. I don't come out looking particularly mature in this, but it felt good at the same time. Something ticked me off. I think it was something silly like I kept dropping things one day, and my hand would pick something up. It's like, oh, I've dropped it again, and I dropped a bowl of pudding or something on the floor, and it went everywhere. And I was so angry until my former self was like, okay, just be the good boy and just clean it up and keep your mouth shut. And I was so ticked off until I took a piece of Tupperware that was on the cabinet and I just slapped the crap out of it and then kicked it across the room. Okay, that's very childish, but I got to tell you, it felt good to me
Yeah,
to acknowledge that emotion of just pure aggravation.
yeah,
and, and then I could say, okay, now what's really bothering you? And
mhm,
kind of learn something about, it had to do with my age. I'm getting a little bit, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, as the doctor would say. And so at the end of the day, I was feeling frustrated over some of the changes in my body as
mhm.
my body gets older. And
Yeah,
so I was able to deal with that in a different way, but I understood it because I acknowledged and just kicked the heck out of that Tupperware and let
yeah,
it come out. So
yeah.
that's
And
an
we
example.
we smile and chuckle because it seems silly or childish, but like it's a lot of what I've done, as a client myself with my coaches and therapists, and also what I help my clients with in feeling and moving through emotions. Like sometimes with anger in a contained, safe, and healthy and loving environment, sometimes throwing a tantrum like a toddler is what we need to get that energy out of our system.
Right,
Because
right.
to your point, when we play that role and play the game of um got to be the good boy, I shouldn't be angry, it's bad if I'm angry, we tend to push it down, and that just means it gets stuck inside us and it's going to come out later in some unhealthy way. So the more we can get it out, and physical movement, and if that means throwing a Tupperware container across the room, a physical movement is a great way to get anger moving out of the body.
Yeah, that's definitely been true for me in this. No question. I would also kind of acknowledge and point out what's been really pivotal in the last X number of months that we've been working together is relationships.
Mm,
So not only the relationship that I have with myself, but recognizing that how I feel about myself and that self-acceptance and self-love and self-appreciation that did not always come easily for me to provide to myself. And I think again, Ted, that went back to, was I a good boy or was I a bad boy that day?
mhm,
All of these rules that I'll say learned, and by that I don't mean to apply that anybody did something to me, but this is as I learned and absorbed and set up my life, it was around other people's rules. And I really felt that I didn't have permission nor the authority to change the rules as they were. I
mhm,
was always stuck in this routine of making other people happy and doing what they wanted and suppressing my feelings in order to get love, recognizing now that love is really within me and
mhm.
I don't need it from other people. It's nice to get it, but that's not the source of, that feeling of love that you have in your heart for yourself and other people. It's really from within. And I didn't really have a great understanding of that, but that's one thing I've learned and really am trying to ground in everything that I feel in my heart and do, that all comes from within. I've always had the authority and the permission to change any rule that I wanted. And as
Yeah,
I've learned that, I've released myself from so much of the societal norms and what my mother said you better do and what the pastor said you better do. Like, not saying that any of that's wrong, but I get to choose and make the rules for my life and choose how I experience it. And
yeah.
that's been really, really, freeing, so freeing for me
Mhm.
to really get to that point where if I make other people happy, that's great, but that's not the goal. The goal is to hold light, to be an example, to have an open heart from love that I have, and let that flow out to others.
Yeah,
That's my goal now.
it's quite the flip, because most of us are taught at a young age that we're supposed to put other people's feelings first. And the concept of loving ourselves, at least in my experience, like that was not part of the vocabulary or the training or the teachings that I heard growing up. Um, and I was taught that thinking of myself would be selfish. So it's quite the flip of the script, to move into a place where we are loving and prioritizing ourselves first, and noticing how that changes our relationships, and how it actually benefits people more whenever we put ourselves first. Because if we don't put ourselves first, then who will? And that can be the recipe for kind of draining our energy and just not feeling great. I certainly
Right.
have a history in that area. So it's an interesting concept to see play out whenever we change what we've learned in the past.
Yeah. in doing so, I found myself harboring a lot of resentment that, of course, I wouldn't
Hmm.
share with other people. That would be
Yeah.
bad boy doing bad boy activity, right? But I have to acknowledge now that I definitely feel what you're saying, and that is if I put myself first, my ability to love that. I'm a huge dog lover, and I've always, felt that unconditional love that you feel from your dog when you come in the backyard from being gone all day. And, that's just one of the nicest, loveliest feelings that I've ever felt in my life. I
Yeah.
guess that's why they're man's best friend, but
Hmm.
I've always felt that. Um, I didn't think of that as a human quality. I felt only dogs can provide that. I've never felt it from anybody other than my dog or dogs that I've had. But what I've recognized is in putting myself first in some ways, that resentment has whittled away. And I feel the capacity and the desire. I don't say I'll always succeed with it. I think it's, a path that I'll always continue to work on. But at
Hmm.
the end of the day, I feel unconditional love in ways that I've never felt it before.
Hmm.
And the only thing that I am getting from thinking it through and from spirit is you're doing that because you're having a healthy relationship with understanding where love forms within you. And I think the
Yeah.
soul, pushes that love through your heart when it's open, but that love and acceptance for yourself has to be there.
Yeah.
At least it does for me. I've sensed that's kind of the impetus for so much of the changes that I'm feeling.
Yeah. Wonderful. Um, how have you noticed your interactions with the people close to you? How have you seen them shift as a result of that?
They've shifted in very positive ways, Ted, but I had to free them. It's
Mhm.
like I had their hands tied behind their backs and their reactions to me. I, have a lot of good relationships, but I guess the two more significant are my mom is 94. She's still living in Memphis, Tennessee. Um, and she truly is, what's the phrase? Wore a silk, wore a silk glove overneath an iron fist. And that's
Mm.
kind of the way I felt. My mother very much ran the household and how, life should go and the things that her children should do and blah, blah, blah. And so that's been a very significant and challenging relationship for me. Um, and then my partner, I've been with him for 13 years now. And I found with both of those, and it does spread to others, but those are the two more significant. The things that I would find were my triggers uh, as I untied their hands and kind of changed myself. And I looked at them, their response to my change was very dramatic, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not saying it was overnight. I think maybe there was a little, who is this person I'm dealing with now? Because I reacted and responded to them differently.
Yeah.
Um, but in doing so, the relationships have improved. Even my partner, when we argue and fight, and we do, I grew up in a let's talk about you behind your back, but we never fight, all together. His family is a large one, and it's like, they'll duke it out right in front of God and everybody. And so that was very different for me. But I've learned to meet him on his own terms. And even as we argue, um, which I thought, again, oh, all that emotion, you've got to suppress it down, it was very much impacting my relationship. I
Mhm.
found I wasn't present in the relationship the way that I needed to be because I really wasn't there. I was masking a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so those two relationships have changed. How I feel about those people have changed and deepened. Um, for example, my mom, I see her now as someone whose life did not always turn out to be the picture that she painted. She had a lot of disappointment and a lot of trauma and heartache in life. And so I see her as one who did the very best that she could with what she knew and under the circumstances to raise me in a manner that she thought was was loving in the right way. Nothing was ever done that was intended to be hurtful. And
Hmm.
so, in letting go of so much of that trauma and recognizing the truth in that scenario, my relationship with my mother has become much more peaceful. And I see her as someone that I can have a great deal of compassion um, and love for. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, that's been an experience for me as well. Um, Doing this work has helped me feel compassion for the people in my life that I
mhm,
previously had resentment towards, whether it was my parents or my ex-husband. Um, like I, at the beginning of my healing journey, I could see where I absorbed a lot of maladaptive and codependent behaviors from my parents. And so seeing that I got it from them, it was easy for me to blame them and point fingers at them. And then obviously my experience with my ex-husband was um, challenging enough to write a whole book about it.
mhm,
And so there was a lot of blame and resentment there as well. And I found that by healing those wounds that have happened, but also like taking responsibility for my role in those relationships,
mhm,
um, it has helped me get to a place of compassion and knowing that we're all just doing the best that we can with the tools that we have. And some people have more tools than others. And that doesn't justify or make certain behaviors okay. So I want to be very clear about that. Um, because there are behaviors that cause harm. But at the same time, like in my experience, I don't have to let those things that happened control and determine how I continue to feel for the rest of my life.
right, right, right. I would say even beyond that, with developing friendships, I've really focused and become more, what's the right, more aware of how grateful I am for the people that love me, truly love me in my life. So, in having a lot of gratitude for, the people that I have in my life, it's been a very interesting phenomena. Some I'm not so close to anymore, and it's nothing bad or there's no anger involved, but it's like identifying who is my tribe, if you want to use the word tribe. I, in the past, have chased trying to be friends with people who, looking back on it, really didn't have that great deal of an interest in having anything more than a very superficial relationship or one at all. And so that need that I have to be accepted by people, I think kind of had me spending energy trying to develop relationships that people that just weren't my tribe. And so, not making anybody wrong or bad, but I've recognized in the last months that I've done this work that the people that I enjoy spending time with and I spend energy in developing a relationship are quite different than those that I might have done earlier in earlier years. And I think that's been healthy for everybody. It's definitely been healthy for me
Yeah.
um, to find those relationships that really have some value and have some depth to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I have loved deepening existing relationships and also attracting new relationships as
Right,
well, where we can have conversations like this.
right,
And kind of with the relationships I've had for decades, kind of expanding um, what we talk about and how we connect.
right,
Yeah.
right. It's very satisfying in allowing things to just, in a way, develop organically
Mhm.
because your vibrations kind of fit together, and that's where you need to be versus trying to force anything that needs to be forced. That doesn't seem to work for me. It's not what I, it doesn't draw me any longer. And so I think a lot of the work has helped me not waste energy on things that are not necessarily I'm aligned with or have the vibrational fit together.
Yeah, great. Um, so I want to ask you about what's next for you, but before we get there, is there anything else of things that you feel have shifted and changed that you want to make sure we touch on before we go to that?
It all kind of fits together. I think it's been a journey for me. I would say the focus on what's going on the planet. What job do I have? How much money do I make? What is my title? Do I have a team reporting to me? Will I get back into? I used to be on a lot of boards in the St. Louis area and kind of got away from that. And will I get back into that? What's really shifted is all that will come, but that's not my main focus.
Mm,
My main focus, Ted, is trying to understand who I really am, rewriting those rules that I didn't think I have the authority or permission to change, and
mhm.
living authentically, and then finding my place, the puzzle piece that is me. How does that fit into the world that is unfolding? And so I would say, if I can be a little bit more clear, is the shifting of how am I going to be taken care of? What does that look like? Is now more of how am I going to prepare and understand myself for the next phase of my life to unfold. So it
Yeah,
shifted, not so much of a fearful, how will I take care of myself, to more of a, what is my purpose and how can I fulfill it?
yeah, wonderful.
And
Yeah.
that's been a blessed change and shift for me
Mm.
to release that.
Yeah, I still have my own things around, safety and security that I'm moving through myself. I'm very much on my own journey. And it's like, when you and I talked about this before we pressed record on this, it's like the more we evolve and heal and grow, we expand into so much more spirit and divinity and the higher level truths, and it can be easy to kind of latch onto those and want to leave our humanity behind.
Right,
And we get to be a fully evolved and fully developed being, and that includes the human things of basic survival and needing money to pay our bills and all those things, as well as the highest levels of
right,
truth and love and joy and peace and those beautiful things as well.
right, right. Well, we're on the planet, but we're spiritual beings that's having a physical experience.
Yeah,
And in
exactly.
looking at that and kind of feeling that shift rather than I'm a body who has a spirit, is like, I'm a spiritual being that's having a physical experience. Kind of sounds bumper stickerish,
Mhm.
but it's so very true. And
Yeah.
it helps me keep focus on my feet firmly planted on terra firma, but
Mhm.
also knowing that I'm a spiritual being that is connected and has all the resources and love of God, or the universe, or spirit guides, or whatever you might believe in. That's all available to us. We are not disconnected from any of that. So it takes a lot of the fear and a lot of the mind planning,
Yeah.
you know,
Great.
away. My mind's a very good friend and I like it very much, but I've learned that I'm not certain that I always want my mind driving the bus. I'd
Mhm.
like it in the back seat somewhere, but my mind driving the bus is not the best place for my brain to be. I want other things to drive the bus.
Yeah. Same here. I came from a place where I had kind of taught myself to let the mind drive the bus because I needed to turn off all my other things. So turn off my heart, turn off my body and my feelings. So a lot of my healing journey has been opening those things back up and then like reintegrating. And it's also not about shoving the mind to the back seat 100% of the time. To your point, your mind is a friend. And I like to think of it as a tool. Like our minds are very powerful. But it's pulling from each part of our essence and allowing them to work together um, for us to create our highest path and make
I agree.
decisions and to know ourselves, all those things.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we wrap up?
Well, I'd just like to thank you, Ted. I did not know necessarily what to expect when we connected and I started a relationship with you, but I knew that I wanted a partner in kind of helping me dig through some of these opportunities in ways that I'd not done in the past. It's kind of like that next level. And I mentioned there were several things in my life over the years, some very traumatic, um, like everybody has, that kind of, gives you a whap over the head and sets you on a more spiritual path.
Hmm.
Um, this was another one of those, but reaching out to someone like you and working with you was the next evolution for my growth. And so I, do want to thank you um, for all the leadership and guidance and partnership that you've provided to me. And I would say, I just want to continue the journey. I don't know the full picture of what life will look like on the planet, but I do know I'm on a path that I intend to stay on that is going to help me always better understand myself and know that I am a piece of the puzzle that will, I guess, assist the planet in some way. That may be in another corporate position. I've been studying some forms of energy and worked through the chakras, which I've really enjoyed a lot. I'm looking and reading on shamanism and my connection to animals and nature, but that's very, very, very strong for me. And so, what I recognize is that in honoring both the masculine and feminine in myself and understanding the connection, the feminine has an idea and I'm learning to trust those ideas. The masculine then says, I can do that. You create it, I'll go do it. And the
Hmm.
two working together, I honestly believe that what will be unfolding for me in the coming months and years will be the next phase of who I am. And I want to offer something that holds light, provides value, and assists other souls and beings in their journey on the planet. So, however that fits in, that's the goal that I'm striving for now.
Yeah, wonderful. And it has been such an honor to serve you, not only because of who you are as a human being, but also all the things that you just shared about what you're wanting to create in this world for yourself and for other people. And it's been really beautiful to witness the evolution along the way to help you let go of and release all that stuff from your past that may have been holding you back from your purpose and what you're wanting to create here, and to expand more into your truth and your divinity and your true self.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining here today, Paul. And to the audience, we're both sending you lots of love. Thanks for joining.
Blessings.